Thank you. Hello and welcome to another Solution Sunday. I am so excited. I'm Lisa Warner. I am the author of The Simplicity of Self-Healing. And today I am here with my good friend, Jenny Stapleton, who another one of these amazing souls who I have met through dream weaving. Woohoo. And today we are going to be talking about caregiving, because there are so many facets to this, and there are so many ways that Jenny can guide people, stand by their side, and walk them through this maze that has become caregiving. So, Jenny, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for this invitation, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here and just talk about, the power of giving care to ourselves and others. That's my main mission right now, because how often do we do that?
Exactly. We live in a world that is a very unkind and uncaring world. When we look out at who's doing what, and, the wars that are being perpetrated on us, all of these, the rules and the this and the that, that's not caring. It's not kindness. And those who do have the kind, caring hearts, we end up getting destroyed by the uncaringness of this world.
I've worked in different settings in education, mostly for the last 20, 25 years, and then also in hospitals. And there are pockets. I've worked with kind nurses and palliative care nurses, and I've worked in different fields that you can see the power of affecting even just one life by being very caring. I remember when I had in third grade, around the time when my parents divorced, just one teacher took a very keen interest in me and my well-being. And I was so grateful, because I have three mothers, and it's funny, they all had focuses of their own. Sometimes I was getting what I needed met, my needs met, and sometimes I wasn't. But she saw me, and she changed my life just with the power of caring. And so I think she's inspired me to go into the fields of education and health.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, it really is, because when somebody actually sees us and they are there to help bring out the best in us, to help encourage us, to help us know that all of the kindness and the caring that we do have inside that the world wants to overlook, that's actually our superpower.
It can be healing, and exactly. And through dream weaving and other alternative health like telesummits and things like that, I've learned a lot of people are out there who do care about empowering people. And I think just there is power in caring.
Absolutely. So what put you on this path of actually caring for others in the way that you're doing as a professional?
Well, part of it started, I guess the path started in 2015 when my husband had a spinal cord injury. He suffered a spinal cord injury. And up until then, he'd been a registered massage therapist, a track and field coach, and sports injury, just interested in sports injury. And suddenly, basically, he was in the best shape of his life when he had a fall at home. And I was visiting my grandfather in Arizona, so I wasn't physically there when he fell. And I had talked with him at 11 p.m. the night before, and this happened at 6 a.m. the next day. And our life changed. So this is a fact. We talked about fact before this call, and the fact is he had a fall, and it affected his spinal cord injury to the point where he had to get like oh gosh, I'm sorry. well, anyway, he had to get surgery, titanium rods in his back. And by that time I had come home. That was the last time I saw my grandfather in his 90s, but because our lives changed after that fact, basically it was a series of adjustments. And it's really quite interesting because the serenity prayer is helpful when it's like the power to accept the things you cannot change and the wisdom to know the difference. But I'd say a lot of caregivers I've met through this experience, and even the people it happened to, including my husband, Patrick, it's not always about accepting. It is about adjusting to new facts or new ways of living and new values and and making choices differently. So I would say up until then, the extent of my caregiving was as a home health care worker in hospitals and also a clerk in a hospital and helping families adjust to the facts of their family members being there, particularly with palliative care. So that seemed to be, I helped people who were adjusting to their loved ones dying, or at least being diagnosed with something that said they were. So, I think I was actually called to support people in their adjustments to, processing in particular. How do you process this experience? This is an experience that you're having. And I found that like meditations and self-care, tactics, like these types of books existed, and helped me a lot. I also, in my case, read about like Christopher Reeve and his experience, like nothing is impossible, adjusting, reflection on a new life, so that all inspired me to kind of become self-aware about what matters to me now in this reality, but honestly, like you, I question facts, I question reality, but it helped me keep calm. And calm.com, speaking of calm.com was there for me as well. And then when I listened to that and I started, the first thing, calm.com is like a 10-minute meditation. I mean, they do everything there. They help you sleep. I wasn't sleeping. I was on 24/7, it seemed like, and caring for my husband and my 2 dogs. And I was adjusting daily. So I'd say that even just 10 minutes to myself kept me sane. And I didn't have a lot of support around me for caregiver, like support for me. A lot of the focus was on my husband. So that is kind of a seed that was planted then that I didn't know until recently. Well, anyway, my first adoptive mother had a congestive heart failure situation as well, and her cardiac surgeons called me because her decision making was affected, although she was still, very lucid and very interactive. She wasn't responding properly, and when they asked her who her power of attorney was, I was the one named. And so, it was a very interesting experience because that was about 3 years after my husband had his fall, and we were adjusting to pretty much daily caregiving that entails. Morning, noon, night, and even in the middle of the night at that stage, he was taking pills and waking up. So it was adjusting to that schedule. We've since made different choices, but what's really interesting is, like he can sleep through a night without waking up in the middle of the night. But when that happened, I had to become a long distance caregiver because she lived in California, and I live here in London, Ontario, in Canada. And so we had to experiment with, how much of his own caregiving can he do for himself, my husband. That involved self-care, that involved creativity and daily routines, and how do you like get on these compression socks? How do you, keep your body from getting bed sores from, like how you sleep, because that is something to consider, when you can't move your legs, so, and my husband is paralyzed now. So it's just a matter of, and it's 4 now. He was given a 1% chance of walking again, but that doesn't define him. It's all about the mindset. And that's something we talked about before you invited me here. But so when I ended up taking care of my mother, there were a lot of decisions that had to be made, and there were elder care lawyers I consulted, fiduciaries, hospital workers. There was a huge village that came together to kind of assist with that experience. And then ultimately did have to sell her condo and then make that work, even though I lived in Canada, and we made it work. I don't know. I mean, I could speak to the experience if someone ever had questions about that process. But I think I just learned a wealth of information, of resources, and, I just became a caregiver that was trauma informed as well. And in order to support myself, I actually took some courses at a local college, university college. King's University College offered a certificate in grief, loss, and bereavement studies. And so I thought I would only take a few courses actually to support my English as a second language students, because I was an English teacher to a lot of students from war-torn countries, and a lot of them had a lot of trauma. So I wanted to be trauma informed and understand what they had been through and be there for them. So ultimately the caring brought me to get that certification. And then I ended up using it for me. And then COVID happened. And although I was visiting people's homes and working at a school, I became more virtually connected with people. I developed a new community through Zoom and through other methods like this. And I think I got a nudge when I got my certificate in 2020 to consider being a grief coach at one point, and I was for about 6 months. But caregivers was the calling. It's like, how can I support more people that I really get? And I've met caregivers. I've supported them pro bono. I've helped some people who look at it as a burden, find resources, but I've never looked at it as a burden because of the support I had with calm.com and daily adjusting and self-awareness and ultimately self-care. Like, I wasn't doing any of that at the beginning. I wasn't eating well. I gained like 20 pounds just out of stress weight. And I've since lost that, thanks to dream weaving with the supportive community I have here.
Yeah.
That was a long answer to a short question.
That's awesome. But I mean, it really shows like there's so many facets to end of life or caregiving that, it becomes this gigantic maze for people, this huge obstacle course.
Yes.
So you were super lucky because, you had so much background in these different, by working in the hospitals and doing that, you kind of had the kind of the lay of the land. So you had like a one up in that respect. So for the people that don't have any of that experience, and all of a sudden, they find themselves in this situation where they have to care for their spouse, or they have to care for their elderly parents, or, wow, like, where do we even start?
Yes, and that's actually where I felt called. And so I feel like I've been called to support people who don't have the knowledge I have, to guide them through the experience. And I was looking for caregiver guidance on how to respond when your husband gets a spinal cord injury. I was looking for resources like that. And now I feel in a position, thanks to my own husband's mindset. I mean, it took some time, to adjust to what doctors were saying. And then right now, one of the dreams in the dream weaving, and I've also been involved with the Brave Thinking Institute, which is more like about dream building and strategies to do that, and how to think of yourself 3 years from now, or how to think of yourself a year from now, or 6 months from now. And I find that was a helpful tool for me, because if I can imagine it in 3 years or 6 months, it's possible. Like, I'm able to create ways for that to happen. And I've learned through dream weaving that supportive communities really are part of that.
Yes.
So how do I create that for other caregivers? Is what I'm doing.
Exactly. You know, we've all been taught to look at lack, you know, to see what other
Isolation.
people
You're
have.
doing this by yourself. You know what I realized recently? Self-sacrifice.
Yes.
There's so much about sacrifice. And I looked for a while at service as sacrifice
Right.
somehow, but it's not. It's not. It's actually, you know, if you're feeling drained and discouraged, you know, from service, it's not really service. It's probably helping, or it's probably, you know, these other terms. Remen, I think, is the Dr. Remen was saying how there's helping and there's fixing a problem, but then there's service, and service actually gives back to you. And that's what kindness does too. And I think of a motivational person besides Christopher Reeves. Like, I have 2 of his books. He's still him, even after, like, he was Superman. And now he had a spinal cord injury, that he was quadriplegic. But I found that his perspective's really useful, and so was his wife. You know, they started a Christopher Reeve Foundation, and there were a lot of resources that they gave back to the community, and that was a real service to me. There's the Rick Hansen Institute. There's all kinds of wonderful people who have given back. And my husband, even, he supports he does peer support for people who are going through spinal cord injuries, and their families, you know. And I'm a volunteer as well for caregiver spouses in particular. But yeah, I'd say I can speak mostly to the experience of being in the support of a parent. That was very unexpected. I thought she was in much better health than it sounded like when the cardiac surgeons called me, you know. And even talking to her, she sounded fine, you know. But when I saw her, it was these subtle things, and then the reports, you know, and just having access to all the information and decision making you have to do, and that includes sometimes preparation. And we live in a death denying society, so we never think that's ever going to happen to us, let alone our loved ones. But I'd much rather be prepared now and help people be prepared. And if not prepared, at least converse about the trauma that you go through when, I mean, it doesn't have to be traumatizing, you know?
Precisely. Yes.
And it was for me.
Well, I mean, it really, I mean, it always is. Like, there's always that shock.
Yeah, it's definitely shocking.
Which is that trauma. And then, you know, it turns into trauma when we don't know how to release that shock, when we don't know what to do with it or how to process it.
And if you haven't healed your own, and this is where the healing part, I'm learning at different techniques to help people heal. And in terms of, like, I don't mind sharing that I actually see you know, like, again, virtually, and through BetterHelp, I see a counselor who's trained in parts therapy, and I have a business coach who's also trained in that. So every once in a while, this, like, 5-year-old girl who was abandoned when my parents divorced, or, you know, this one's running the show. And you know what? I'm not that person anymore. And I'm not, you know, like, we've encountered all these parts of me. Like, I was punished a lot growing up, and so it's like there's punishable girl, you know. And I'm not punished anymore. Like, this was something I shed in dream weaving. Like, I burned that off, and I'm not that person. Doesn't show up when I do caregiving or when I do my my counseling anymore, for others. And it's exciting. So I really have even more that I can offer people, like that I've overcome that overwhelm or that burnout, or just because there is sometimes you are a martyr, and there's a difference between being kind and a martyr,
Yeah.
the Mother Teresa syndrome. But it's great. Mother Teresa is wonderful. And but the reason why I actually admire Mother Teresa is she still took care of herself as she gave to everyone, but that was her identity, and a lot of people who model her don't give to themselves, they burn out. And I don't think I ever saw Mother Teresa burnt out, so you don't have to be that way, but there was a part of me that felt like I had the world on my shoulders, and I needed to heal everyone, and I needed to
Sure.
care for everyone, and I do, but there are ways to do that don't burn yourself out.
Exactly. We have Michelle saying, instead of calling it sacrifice, I call it gift giving.
Oh, Michelle, that's
beautiful.
very wise. Yeah, gift giving. True.
Right?
Yeah,
We love that.
I love that, Michelle.
So when you decided to become a professional caregiver, how did it, a lot of times we go through this kind of imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
where we feel like, oh, we don't have a degree in this, or we don't have a piece of paper on the wall. And, how can I call myself something when, blah, blah, blah. And this happened to me. What was your experience? Did you have that same experience?
I had what I actually am getting some coaching on the imposter syndrome, and it's going to help me. You'll see more. I'm at the beginning stages, by the way, of doing coaching now. So I'm launching my business, guidingbyyourside.com, and that, I'm working on my website, and I'm working on my newsletters and different articles and ways to be of service that way. So I'd say before I started dream weaving, I was so nervous to be on camera. I was fine to be on Zoom for certain meetings, but generally I had my camera off, or, I just I did feel some imposter syndrome, especially a lot of self-doubt at first, whether this calling was going to be of service, and whether people would see me as qualified if I'm not like a nurse or something, or a social worker. And I did find that talking with other nurses and social workers who also support caregiver burnout, like, we all have different skills. I've met someone who does a TV show for people, for caregivers in the sandwich generation, and she doesn't have a lot. Well, actually, no, she is a social worker, so she helps people who are parents of children, and also parents. Sorry, caring for the parents. So I've learned these terms. And I learn a lot of the hospitals look at the baby boomers. I don't know if you've heard this term, but as the silver tsunami. So there's going to be a lot of seniors who are coming to the hospitals that people have to be prepared for, and they can use all the help they can get. And that's the term for it, because it's kind of getting ready for, just that, I hate to call it a death denying society, but there's going to be, it's adjusting to the fact that we will not always be here, and it would be nice if we're all immortal, but that's kind of the one fact you really can't argue with. But you can't.
I'm not going to argue about it, but
So
we're
cute.
immortal beings.
I thought so. That's why we talked before this call. Like, I know with you, it'll be like, facts aren't always facts, right?
We have learned many, many, many facts in this world that are not true.
Exactly. I know. So, I mean, I plan to live over 100, I plan to have a quality life. And that's what this, for me, I have to say, I was also in an earthquake in Japan in 95, and that's where I met my husband, teaching English in Japan. And we were there when the Hanshin earthquake happened, and that happened very quickly. And then a friend our age died. And so it was kind of one of those, experiences where, we realize, we don't know what tomorrow may bring. So let's take care of ourselves today. And I think that's when seeds were planted, like what matters to us, what matters. And my husband and I had been interested in each other as friends, but, that really clicked together that we're right there.
And the earth moved under your feet.
Yeah, and the earth moved and we got brought together. And I would say that was part of, I don't know. I was a little bit of a fatalist at the time. This is fate, so we got married there, and we moved to Vancouver and then Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, and then London, where I live now. And so I don't know, but we always made the most of each moment, and definitely had love there. He's a very kind man, and I think it just became very clear that quality of life matters a lot. So when I say quality of life, I also mean a quality palliative experience. If let's just comfort, if you are in that stage where either your mindset has decided it's time, or some kind of, whatever. I don't know. If anyone's going to be immortal, it will be you.
It's all of us. We are soul. The soul is immortal, and we are the soul.
Actually, yes.
Right
yes.
here, right
I am 100% with you with the soul. Yeah. So yes, definitely.
And the thing is that we don't have souls.
Yeah.
We are the soul right here, right now. We were the soul before we came into the physical body. We are the soul after we leave the physical body. And we are the soul while we're in the physical body. But we have just been trained to believe that we're just the physical body. And this is the reversal matrix that we have all been living in as humanity for hundreds of thousands of years, to make us believe that we're merely mortal. That this is the body, and when the body goes, that's it, we're done. And this is absolutely the reversal mindset. And it weakens us. It puts us in a state of fear. We're constantly in fear of death, because the external world goes, oh my God, you're gonna die. Oh my God, you have this terrible thing. You're gonna die. You only have 6 months to live. Oh my God, you better protect it. And we're always in fear of death, because it's the message that is all pervasive throughout society. And the fact of the matter is that we can't die. We cannot possibly die. Our bodies can stop functioning, and then we simply continue existing without the physical body.
No, I completely see your point, and I just hadn't been there with my mindset before coming into the call. Yes.
Does that make sense? I mean,
totally makes sense. And I'm with you with that. Yes.
Yeah. So then, like, when our loved ones pass away, and then all of a sudden they come to us in a dream, or we just kind of feel them around us, or, we get little signs, the butterfly lands. Oh, my grandma said she would show up as a butterfly, like whatever. And then we go, oh, well, that was just my imagination.
No, we talk about that even in the wellness center at the hospice that I was part of for my father-in-law's experience there. They talk about that sometimes, like talk about understanding your grief. And when people don't talk about that, it's much harder.
Absolutely.
Because every experience is different, but we also have to be clear that if you not to judge if you don't, if you're not there yet, but I definitely have had experiences, even with my first adoptive mother, once her body died, communicated with me through music and even GPS. Like I think we all, if really are honest with ourselves, we've had experiences like that. a bit woo-woo sometimes, but I'm all into that if
Well,
it's true for you and if it's true for me.
yeah, we've all been taught that only the physical stuff is real.
Mhm.
That if you can see it or touch it or taste it or smell it, that it's real. But anything that is in the imagination is just your imagination. That doesn't count
Just
for
a
anything.
dream,
That's not
not the
real.
real world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. However, there is far, far more that is non-physical than there is that is physical.
And you and I
Thoughts,
both know this. Yes.
yeah,
We've talked
thoughts,
about that.
light,
Yeah.
frequency, dreams, all of these things are not air, non-physical stuff, the stuff that is really real. But we're taught to dismiss all the non-physical stuff. Why? Because we're non-physical beings. And if we dismiss the things that are non-physical, we dismiss ourselves and we dismiss all of our power, and we simply literally dismiss our power, meaning we give away our power. Our life force energy starts to be drained from us when we're not noticing the non-physical stuff. Energy,
we're not caring about it. Here's
non-physical.
the power of caring, because when we start caring about that happening and we start paying attention and we start adjusting and allowing for that, that's when we get our power back. And I think that's been my experience.
Exactly. We start to see the non-physical. We start to see the caring, the kindness. We start to see the energies that are available
Energy.
to create from.
I was definitely not aware of energy before my caregiving experiences. So I'd say that started in 2015, is really understanding energy is everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Fear is an energy. Guilt is an energy. Caring is an energy. Love is an energy. When we start to recognize these are energies and we can change, we are masters of energy. When we simply look at the energy, when we notice it, we can change it. But when we don't notice it, we can't change it. And then we feel like we're stuck. We're stuck with this fear. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. Well, fear is the energy. What happens if you just simply cleared that energy out of your personal energy space and it wasn't there anymore?
May I ask you to share about your diagnosis and a little, just in a nutshell, what you experienced and when
Well,
that was?
yeah, I mean, my life was a living nightmare because for me, I could never figure out this reality. I could never understand why we were doing this whole money thing when we're the only beings in all of creation here on this planet that are trying to do things for money. We've got, the earth gives us everything we need for free. And if we simply care about each other and share with each other, we all have everything we need and we can create anything we want. But here we are, slaves to this money system. And I could never figure that out. And I was carrying so much guilt and resentment and shame and all of this stuff, living in this, on the verge of economic collapse all the time. And it was so stressful for me. I couldn't function. So I had gone from being this healthy, fit athlete to my body was twice its normal size. And I was having constant anxiety attacks, panic. Where's the money going to come from? How am I going to earn a living? I can't do some soul sucking job because I didn't come here for this. And I was just completely overwhelmed, overburdened, and not functioning. And so when I finally realized, oh my God, this is not good, here's cancer knocking on my door. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about this? So I knew instinctively that chemo and radiation was not for me. Like that was more scary than dying of some cancer thing. Because at that point I figured, hey, dying will be a welcome relief from all of this at this point. So I thought I need to become master of my own body. I need to learn my body heals itself. Every time I break a bone, every time I get a sprain, every time I get a cut or a bruise or a burn, my body has always healed itself. So why wouldn't it just heal itself now? If I bring myself back into balance, then why would not my body not bring itself back into balance? So I decided to look at what was actually the problem. And my actual problem was that I wasn't functioning properly in society. I had all this money stuff and this lack of self-worth stuff, the shame, the guilt, the doubt. Like I knew instinctively that those were the things that were causing my body to do what it was doing. So I started looking at those things, and I started to study alchemy, and I started to recognize, like, wait a second, everything is energy. And if we start looking at things in terms of energy and frequency, we can literally like tune a radio dial. It's like I was tuned into the lack and shame and guilt channel. So my whole life was in lack and shame and guilt. And that was my experience. And then once I realized, wait a second, I can tune the frequency up and I can tune in to the healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy channel. And, we all have that ability, but we're so tuned into the narrative of you have this terrible disease, or you can't heal that, or, this is for the rest of your life. It's going to be like this. And, and we just listen to the experts, but the experts have not been trained in infinite possibilities and how to actually create reality, or how this reality has been created on this planet. So those of us that go through these things and we're not professionally trained, the only reason we've gone through these things and come out the other side is because we're not in that mindset. We haven't given away our power to those systems. So now we become the system busters, and we start busting people out of these systems of imprisonment. Because the fact of the matter is, our bodies are designed to regenerate themselves. Our bodies are designed to regrow limbs. Our bodies are designed to literally regrow and regenerate the spinal cord and the nervous system. Like that's what's actually the blueprint and the template. But because the professionals have been trained that we can't, then that becomes the all-pervasive, we can't, now we're stuck.
I know my husband and I are in that possibility and openness. And every day, even just yesterday, we got one of the dreams that I've been talking with you about is having our home be wheelchair accessible for now, but it's also given us more room. It's given us more ability to host people. And then just yesterday, we got the a workout station, that my husband's going to be working out on. And if anyone is going to dance on our surgeon stage, even though gave Patrick 1% chance to walk again, like we celebrate every titch of improvement. And that's a fantastic way to live, Exactly. Honestly, I think that's helped a lot of people, for him talking with people,
I love you bringing this up because it's just brought up another awareness for me. We're given these odds, right? These numbers, 1%. Right?
I remember, and he gave it to me with the twinkle in his eye, and I'll never forget the twinkle in his eye.
Well, listen,
that's what I was looking at.
Right. So we're given these numbers, and we attach these numbers, 99% chance, a 40% chance, right? Well, what if we just simply go, there's a chance that you can heal and there's a chance that you won't.
Yes.
Which side are you going to look on?
Of course, we're going to go on the 1%. Right? Is better than no. Yeah.
Right. So they're just trained to go, well, this is never going to happen. But you have this much.
The twinkle in his eye is all I saw.
What if it's literally 50-50?
Yeah.
Like, Either you will
That
or
makes a
you
difference
won't,
in your, yeah, and it's just like
right?
you know, the half empty, half full, right? You know?
Exactly. So like 99% chance, the odds are, the odds are not in your favor. Says who?
I know.
Like, really?
Yeah,
Like, if we just go, all right, there's a chance I can do this, and there's a chance, if there's a chance I can do this, then let me do this. Like, this is what I'm gonna do.
and that's
Like,
where it's trusting your intuition, or the soul knows, and the power of a breath, because if you receive this information while you're, I call it the panic breathing. I have a whole book that I've read about panic attacks, because honestly, I wasn't breathing back in 2015 when all of this was happening. I didn't see that possibility. Although I was still receiving that information as positively I could, and focusing on the twinkle in his eye, he was drawing me diagrams and saying, this is what happened, and this is, these are the facts, and this is like, you know, uh, you know, and if any of you have watched like Bones, the TV show or something, like the only show that's ever shown a guy functioning really in a wheelchair that I've seen up until recently, I think things are changing now with Hollywood and everything, but was one of their characters had a spinal cord injury and then came back to work and had a functioning relationship with another character in the show. And honestly, that was as realistic as you could get to having a quality life after a spinal cord injury, in terms of what possibilities there were once you were diagnosed with that. Or the mind over matter, which at this point of our lives isn't really working for Patrick. And then there's, very painful stem cell research and things like that you can go to Switzerland for, and it's also very expensive. But I know people doing that, and it still hasn't changed. I mean, it makes them feel better short term or something, but it's hard when you don't get those results quickly. So there's also an element of needing some patience, and I don't believe it's all about faith either, because I think faith can help people, but I also believe, and I believe Patrick and I do have faith, but there's also that instinct, that internal knowing, and that's been more reliable for us.
yes, exactly.
Because it's a for now. What's the best thing that can happen right now, for now, and with what we have and what we can afford and what we can do, and celebrate that. And that's how we've been living each day.
Beautiful. Love that. Keith is on. He says, yes, I am not a body.
Yeah.
I have a body. I am a soul.
Yes.
Limitless, unbound, guiding, manifesting, opening to all possibilities. If I believe it, then I will see it.
Yes.
Then he says,
Yes.
plant seeds, speak the word, and harvest the energy. Create your reality.
Yes.
We are energy masters, whether we're creating abundance or poverty, good or bad, happy or sad, no matter the manifestation, we've created it. We are all masters pretending to be students. I love that.
And Keith, you and Keith have been a huge help with that lack of isolation and lack of overwhelm. And like, I don't know. I understand that these things happen, but also that, yeah, there's all this possibility. There's all these new perspectives of what matter in life. And, it's all how you look at something. Because perspective is everything.
Yeah. So let me ask, do you believe that the body regenerates itself?
I do.
It has the capacity. And do you believe that the soul knows exactly what to do to get the body to regenerate itself?
Yeah, I know. I'm discovering. Well, you're an inspiration, obviously, and that's why I asked you to share your story here, because I know it, and I know it, but I know it better now, and I know the perspective of the mindset as well, because that's partially mindset. It's beliefs you have, and I'm just starting to learn about frequencies, So there, a lot of caregivers are in that panic mode, shallow breathing. They're, they're not seeing community for sure, or they're seeing it as, I hate to, a lot, when I first decided to be a caregiver coach pro bono, I'd say about eight people I talked with were in a very resentful stage, I think they were in relationships where it was expected that they would be the primary caregiver and not hire out. They didn't want to, so, or they had even made agreements with their loved one. I'm going to leave you when I do that. But then, that's something you can say, but it's not the power of caring as we're talking about here. Right. Some of them left and some of them stayed. And the ones that chose to stay didn't know they had options to hire somebody or to, honestly, I do think the ones who stayed had more growth in themselves, more power in the end, and more love for themselves and their loved one, because they didn't act on their resentment and and anger, and it comes up, but they talked about it with someone, me, and I got to see the extent of their because you have plans. I'll tell you, here's an example. One of my values was traveling. I had to travel to be happy. When my husband had a spinal cord injury, a lot of places aren't wheelchair accessible. A lot of if there's a lot of pain involved, and yes, eventually I think my husband can live pain-free, but the reality of it is it's a very painful experience. So, and he's not on any medication that, requires like changes. I don't know, like everyone deals with the pain differently, but we're happy with the way he deals with it. And he's open to other ways to deal with it as well. I believe he can live pain-free. I think he believes he can live pain-free, but that's not the reality at the moment. So it is what, okay, now what was my point? I knew I was going to throw myself off by going down the path of pain with you because, oh, darn, I don't remember my point there. But
it'll come back.
It'll come back.
Gwen just hopped on. Hey, Gwen.
Oh, hi, Gwen. Thank you for being here. I don't remember the point.
Yeah, pain can be a very tricky situation. We get stuck in there. Yeah. And because we've never been taught how to release it. We've never been taught how to flip the mindset around to be able to embrace it and allow it to dissipate. Yeah. So Keith has a story about all of that too.
Oh, that's right. Because yes, and actually Keith, oh yes, you are a living example of how that can be turned around. And I think it was through a lot of your conversations together too that change started. That's amazing.
Yeah. We are but
that's because you care. So it comes back to the power of caring.
Yeah. And just and the power of shifting which set of eyes we look through. Right. We are body, mind, and soul. We are the soul, always and forever. That is who and what we are. The mind is the part that gets programmed. It's the part that is the computer processor. And it's just fed with all kinds of facts, right? And we go to school and they teach us all these facts that we have to memorize and we have to spew them back, and right? So all of this stuff, all of these facts that we're taught shape the way we view the world. But it turns out the majority of those facts are not facts at all. They're actually completely distorted facts. And when we start to realize that all of the stuff that we have learned, they talk about, oh, those people over there, they're terrible people. They do this, that, and the other thing. And, those people are out to kill us. And they're not facts. They're literally not facts. They're just simply stories that are being told to us that we then interpret as facts. And then we work from this monkey mind, and we're always in reaction mode. because we don't like that fact over there. So we want to avoid that fact. You know, if you don't pay your taxes, we're going to put you in jail. You know, oh, that would be a bad fact. Like, I don't want that fact. So I better be a good person, do all my pay my taxes, you know, like, and we just live our lives trying to avoid these facts that we have been taught or prevent.
Yeah.
And when we start to step out and we start to see the broader picture that we are souls, we are completely free, we are totally unlimited, and we don't have to do anything that anybody else wants us to do. We don't have to just because they say so. And when we start to tune in and start actually caring about our own peace and well-being, our own happiness, and we start to stop allowing the bullies to take our lunch money, you know, whatever that is, you know, if you don't do this, I'm going to beat you up, you know. We've been doing this pattern since school, like, and it just gets a bigger platform. And we have these bodies that are literally designed to regenerate and rejuvenate themselves. They're designed to heal. You know, we are unlimited beings. You know, we don't have to be paying the bullies our lunch money because they say so. You know, like, there are so many things when we step out and we start to look as the soul, as the unlimited beings we are, we start to see the facts that have reversed our thinking, that have made us think that we're small, that we're victims, that we just have to do what we're told, or that this is just the way it is and we have to deal with it. And none of that is actually true. We don't need to live in a world that's that's fighting and in poverty and, you know, food shortages or whatever it is they're doing. Like, we actually don't have to do any of that stuff.
That said, I actually completely agree in how to live freely and most wonderfully in that world and through that perspective. And sometimes we have experiences, because I'm also trauma informed, so I do believe that when we have our experiences that can overwhelm us or shape our perspective, it's really important to have people there, or guidance, or strategies, or tools to heal that kind of hurt part of yourself. Because, like I said, I've overcome a lot by having someone to talk to about the 5-year-old that runs the show sometimes. You know, if you're not aware, it's there, hurt, angry, experiencing that again because you just don't trust the world based on your own experience and ideas. You have to heal that. You have to heal that. And that's energy too. So it's really, I completely believe that there's this book called by Bessel van der Kolk called Body Keeps the Score. And people who understand, I'm new to the world of past lives, or just the, you know, I think the immortal soul, you know, I have to learn more about that myself, but I am a newbie, you know, so I just, I believe that, yeah, we're always healing, you know, and I want to facilitate healing. I want to facilitate it in any way. And it just so happens that a lot of caregivers who are called to the role and choose that role, you know, kind of it's never an active choice, actually, saying that, but you can stay or go, just like, do I stay or should I go now? You know what I mean? Like, there's a stage where the ones I'm serving right now are the ones who stay, you know, who, for whatever reason, whether they're the best equipped, whether they're professional, whether there's a love bond, or just a service bond of some kind, you know, they, you know, I really want to care for people, especially when they have a situation comes up where there's a power dynamic or just some old experiences that haven't been healed. Like, I think really it's powerful to be in that power space and acknowledge that the feelings that come up, whether they're frequency low or high, are all important in our evolution. And I think half of the role that I've taken on as caregiver is to heal myself of a lot of old stuff, whether it's beliefs or, the facts that have been given or whatever. So it all comes back to this, I think.
Exactly. We have Gwen says, oh, Jenny, can you say more about trauma informed?
Oh, yes, because it just means that okay, how do you define that, Gwen? It means when something's happened in our past. I think all of us have had experiences where, like you mentioned, the bully in school, or it could be a parent that was not able to get to meet your needs as a child or coming into this world, whether it's physical or emotional. Or, not all of us have had what they call secure attachments. So there's a lot of theories out there. There's the attachment theory, there's the polyvagal theory about the nervous system, and when your needs aren't being met, fight, flight, or freeze, and that becomes normal for you growing up. There is somebody who we've all met in dream weaving who had an experience with her family where there was a lot of trauma there and things happened. And I would say, your ability to grow or work on yourself or allow for things to happen. So here's where I don't use the word accept things happening. I allow for them to happen, because sometimes we're like, our nervous system can't handle something happening. And so I'm informed that actually is an experience that many, many, many people have, whether there was, and I call trauma anything from, and like from rape to death to, a pet dying to, anything, right? Like that's traumatizing, right?
Yeah.
I'm informed that shapes our experience to handle things that happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean about our experiences. So it is an experience that my husband had a spinal cord injury. I luckily had done a lot of work on myself and had just started a process. Like I took a course in self-care, and so I was in a self-care course. It was an 8-week course before, during, and after the spinal cord injury happened for Patrick. And if I hadn't been in that course, I don't even know if I'd have that sense of community, self-care. What does self-care really mean? It means self-nurturing, self-healing, caring for me, and breathing. Breathing was the number one thing I learned. Right. I was doing the shallow sips of air as I was just like trying not to take up space. But what you really need to do is nurture every cell in your body, breathe deeply,
exactly,
process what's happening. And so a lot of trauma, like a lot of people who aren't trauma informed don't recognize that sometimes you can be triggered by an attitude, a thing that was said, something as it appears, and so I'm just more aware that if someone's triggered, then it's not about me. 2, it requires a hell of a lot of compassion and kindness to heal and acknowledge. And some of the people who are triggered don't want to acknowledge something or don't feel. It's all about safety. So one of the things I want to create in my practice is having that sanctuary of space where people feel very, very safe. And so generally that's going to be like a meditation to get people feeling comfortable in a couple minutes, making sure, like checking with them at the end of our conversation that they're not at a highly triggered stage or at a frozen stage, and that their nervous system is regulated. So I'd say a quick definition of trauma informed just means that you're aware it's a nervous system response, And it's kind of polyvagal theory, actually, in that you just need to regulate the nervous system. And that first step is to breathe. And that's why calm.com helps me.
Yeah. The soul comes into the body on the breath.
Yes.
That's how we bring the soul into the body. And every time we get traumatized,
yes, that's it.
Breathing.
And I'm no exception.
Yeah, all of us. Every time we have that shock, there's that we stop the breath. And then we don't want to go past that spot again. Because like the last time we were here,
that's right.
There was a trauma. So now I don't want to breathe through that. I don't want to go near that. So then we start breathing more and more shallowly. We don't want to take those full breaths because the last time we had that full breath, it was a trauma.
Yes.
So
when you're not open to experience not being that, and you don't realize you're closing off that opportunity for the universe to kind of rejuvenate, or even your nervous system to replenish, because you've never had that experience. Exactly. So that just like, I'm aware that happens.
Yeah, we've never been taught. We go to school but we don't learn anything. Like, we don't learn any life skills. We don't learn how to manage
money.
We don't learn we don't learn about energy. We don't learn how to release trauma. We don't learn any of these things. School induces far more trauma than
well, I can tell you, when something happens that changes your life, like a spinal cord injury, money is a concern. Absolutely. It costs more, and then people treat you differently, and then things cost money, like wheelchairs and physiotherapy and things. But if you're only focused on the trauma, you really won't be open to other possibilities or experiences.
Precisely.
So actually, Keith was the one who taught me about thinking a new thought. Like, I that's a new lifestyle for me, is like, what new thought can I think today? And I'm aware how powerful that is because of the trauma I've gone through. And the people who have held space for me, including that self-care course, when, like, that woman was amazing for holding that course. Like, that was almost divinely timed. Absolutely. That I was in a self-care course.
Right?
It's not about just caring for yourself with nails. It's about caring for yourself as a soul. Exactly. And as a healer, and as a, you're breathing deeply and having joy in your life, and what nourishes your soul.
Exactly. It's all really about allowing ourselves to feel good.
And then you're a better caregiver too.
Yeah. When we can feel good under any circumstances, because the fact of the matter is, we actually all have the ability to feel good at any time throughout the day. Like, it's literally a choice that we can make. Most people don't believe that, but it's actually true. So when we start to learn that we have the power to make ourselves feel good, we become really powerful, and we start to help others to feel good too, because we want everybody to feel good, because then the whole world feels good, and it's just a really nice place to be. So.
Well, even when I was just driving my my father-in-law to the cancer clinic, and just sitting with them and talking, and we felt good, even though he was getting blood tests and he was, having all these facts around him. I'd say all of that was about spending time together, hearing his stories, being, the caregiving at that stage was driving and sitting with them, and I guess being a companion. And it was fun. I got a lot out of it. I got more than I got out of a job being there for him.
Wow. And what a great angel you were for him to be there, to have somebody to help lift him up and hold that space of feeling good, so that he could tap into that. Because if if focused in the other direction, like, there's not a lot of good feelings around a hospital and these treatments and things. So for you to be able to hold that space, for him to tap into that, what a blessing. Wow. Jenny, this is so amazing. Gwen says, We're designed to heal. We are souls. Yes, Lisa, we are unlimited beings. It's good to get these reminders in the morning. And she says, let's see. Oh, thank you for explaining more about being trauma informed. And Brenny says, great info, Jenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenny.
And Gwen says, this is really helpful. It's if someone's triggered, it's not about you and what they want or need.
I got goosebumps. Yeah, angel bumps.
Yeah, there we go. Beautiful.
You got it.
Brenny says, another awe-inspiring episode, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa.
So Keith says, my angel would say, how do you want it to be?
Oh, very good, Keith.
Right?
How do you want it to be? Oh, and I do have your book too. Where did I put it? Anyway, I have it here. Oh, shoot. I can't find it right now, but I do have it. Okay. The angel. Yeah, I have your
Walking
book.
with my angels.
Walking with my angels.
Right here.
Yeah, that's the
There
one.
it is. By Keith Leon S.
Here it is.
So,
Yeah.
You all have not read this book.
Plug for you, not paid for. By Keith.
An amazing, amazing book. So please, if you have not read it yet, if you want to hear some amazing stories about infinite possibilities, about making the impossible happen, please read this book, because there are many, many stories about the impossible happening in this book.
No, obviously I surround myself with inspiration, reading, and then meeting you has been an inspiration, and having this opportunity has been wonderful. Thank you.
Beautiful.
And for everyone watching who made comments as well.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Best way right now is I'm working on my website and changing it, but guidingbyyourside.com. And right now I am just booking caregiver coaching calls as I get kind of clearer on how I can best serve the community. And once I start advertising a bit more and changing my website and making it more interactive, I will talk with you again.
Great. So Jenny has the biggest heart on the planet, greatest smile. And please, if you are in need, if you are a caregiver, if you know someone who is a caregiver who is starting out on this path or could use some extra support, Jenny is an amazing resource. So please, please, please reach out to Jenny. The link is in the chat. Thank you, Gwen, for popping it in again. That's awesome.
Thank you, Gwen.
Yep. So the link is in the comment section in our Facebook group. So, and if you are looking on YouTube, just check the comment section because the links will be in there as well. And if you're listening on Connecting You to You Radio, check the show notes because the should be in there as well. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another Soul-lution Sunday, where the soul is the solution. So Jenny, thank you so much for this great conversation. I look forward to having you back again.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you again next week on Soul-lution Sunday.